Capital Extra. Reloaded.
The biggest old school anthems.
Shut up, Paul and Blue Kentrell. Remix, I go make the bed well, yo.
We're together. So I retired, she didn't. But she pretty much cut everything off. And so to find still her purpose and her worth, self-worth, she decided to open this can of worms in this cooking thing. 2 New York Times bestsellers later, and an Emmy. Yeah, an Emmy and a successful, cooking show. I'm not sure which career is bigger now, her cooking show or her music career. So that just testifies to that.
As part of the range of malaria prevention treatments recommended, which helps us to protect our personnel from this life-threatening disease. Mefloquine is used across the UK, not just by the military, and is only ever prescribed after an individual risk assessment. There is no defined caveat from every body in the world that suggests its use should be restricted in military personnel or people who handle weapons.
The military go to Public Health England for their advice, which is inappropriate because they should be developing their own policies based on their own knowledge of their own working environment, not following some other bodies' policies that are really designed for a completely different group.
Dr. Ashley Croft was a consultant public health physician at the Surgeon General's Department and a NATO public health advisor.
The MOD should take note of the science behind this problem. The science spells out very clearly that mefloquine, Lariam, is a very dangerous drug in some users. There are safer alternatives, so the MOD should immediately stop issuing mefloquine to soldiers, and in my view, they should ask the Surgeon General, who over a period of 15 years has been given them very bad advice, to resign, and if that resignation isn't voluntary, it should be made compulsory.
So they should sack the Surgeon General if the Surgeon General doesn't resign?
Yes, indeed, yeah.
And if they don't do those things?
I think the inevitable result will be that there'll be some terrible human tragedy in the British Army, as there was in the American Army, that could have been avoided by use of a safer drug.
Gunmen moved from house to house.
The murder of 16 Afghan civilians in Kandahar by Staff Sergeant Robert Bales in 2012 has been persistently linked to Lariam.
9 children.
as were a spate of killings of military wives at Fort Bragg 10 years earlier.
Allegedly murdered by their special forces husband.
The evidence, though, is far from clear, but all were either in or working with US Special Forces, who have now banned the drug.
There's no justification for this drug to be used in combat settings.
Dr. Remington Nevin told a US Senate committee that he believes this drug could emerge as the Agent Orange of our generation.
The US military developed this drug, but there's a very good reason why we don't use this drug that we invented. And for our allies to ignore that fact, I think they do at their own peril.
What are you laughing at, though?
The Lariam Legacy was presented by Victoria Derbyshire and produced by Deborah Dudgeon. It was a Whistledown production for BBC Radio 4. In a moment, Tom Sutcliffe discusses wilderness and his guests on Start the Week. This after we've heard from Rosalind Shah. And tonight, Islamic State militants appear to have tightened their grip. Camp in Damascus. The UN Security Council's appealed for urgent humanitarian access to the camp and the Palestinian refugees sheltering there. We'll hear from the PLO. Also, we debate a government prediction that antibiotic resistance could claim 80,000 lives a year in the future. We find out what's on the shopping list of one pensioner cashing in his pension pot. There's a clue, it involves a holiday. And a very familiar voice joins the campaign to save a Soho institution. That's all coming up on The World Tonight at 10. Thank you. Now here's Tom Sutcliffe to start the week.
Hello. As humans, we like to think it's our minds that set us apart from the rest of nature. But that doesn't mean that we always know what to do with them. We simply can't make our minds up about some things, even when we've had thousands of years to come to a conclusion. Ambivalence runs through our programme today. The Greek ambivalence about the Amazons, explored in Adrian Mayer's book about the myth and reality of women warriors in the ancient world. Our modern ambivalence about the wild.
It's a play through the middle again. Palace having a bodies in there to stop it breaching.
Don't tell them, you ain't even gotta tell them, don't tell them, don't.
Speak to someone more senior and ask them to tell you the overriding reason that they said no, because they should be able to tell you that, and that should give you maybe more of a clue as to what the issue was.
All right, Sarah, thank you very much. Interesting question. More calls coming in a moment. We're talking about your credit rating. 0345 6060 973 is the number. LBC News Time 9:31. And with the headlines, Lindsay Kinghorn.
Teachers have voted for a ballot on strike action over education funding cuts once the election is over. The National Union of Teachers has given the next government a 6-month deadline for a new plan. The father of a girl who's believed to have left London to join Islamic State has insisted he's not an extremist. Reports suggest Abbas Hussein joined demonstrations outside the US Embassy in 2012, where a flag was set alight. Lufthansa claims it was under no obligation to report that the co-pilot of the Germanwings plane had previously suffered from depression. Germany's Federal Aviation Office has been quoted as saying it was not informed of Andreas Lubitz's history. And Crystal Palace are beating Manchester City 2-0 in tonight's Premier League game. Jason Puncheon scored the last goal after Glenn Murray scored for the home side earlier. LBC weather, a dry night with clear spells for London and the southeast, turning chilly with some light winds, lows of 5 degrees. Dry and chilly overnight for most of the UK. Tomorrow, dry with light winds and warm sunny spells, highs of 13 Celsius. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lindsay Kinghorn.
Clive Bull on LBC. And this is the Money Hour between now and 10, and with me is James Jones from Experian as we advise you on your credit rating and your credit history. If you've got a question, then call now 0345 6060 973. Here's another quick one to throw at you, James. About student loans. The only loan I've had is a student loan which is being paid back slowly through wages. Does this have any effect on your credit score?
No.
Okay,
Yes,
there we are.
The short answer, certainly not if it's a loan taken out in the last 15 years. The old style loans, there is a little bit of data sharing in relation to those, particularly if you've defaulted on one. But if it's a modern style loan that sort of came in because they changed the system, didn't they, around 2000, then that is not going to be on your credit report. So it's not going to be helping or hindering your credit rating.
Okay, right, here's Ali in Hampstead. Hello, Ali.
Hi, Clive. How you doing?
Very good. What can we do for you?
Well, basically, I just wanted to ask James, I'm not a British national, and therefore I'm not on the electoral roll. I just wanted to know what kind of effect that could have on my credit rating.
Right. Hi, Ali. Good question. And it is a challenge for people that come to the UK from overseas, because the electoral roll is part of your credit report. We use it in the UK to kind of help guide credit checks, if you like. It helps us pin down people's addresses, and it helps lenders confirm that you exist, your name and address, and also your sort of residential history, if you like, to make sure you've lived where you said you've lived. So if they do a check and find no information on the electoral roll, your application can hit the buffers, because it makes it more difficult for them to check your name and address. And many credit scores actually award points for people being registered on the electoral roll too. And whilst you're probably not going to lose that many points for not being registered, if your application is kind of, or your credit score is already borderline, it can be, if you like, the straw